where they might be. And thank you, Lord, for this great country that we live in.
Amen. Amen. Can I have a motion to approve the amended agenda?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Can I have a motion to approve the docket of claims?
So move.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. And number 6 is to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of May 2nd.
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And that motion passes. Before we get into the meat of the agenda, I just want to give you all a brief on our trip to Washington, D.C. We took the Blue Ribbon trip there. Alderman Piper and Alderman Wicker and me went up there, and our specific request from the entire group was to try to get funding for I-55 widening all the way through the county. They also made some requests for South Haven and Horn Lake to be able to get on money to get on the Regional Sewer Authority since Memphis is cutting them off. But the specific request for the city of Hernando this year was for money for the Green Tea Sewer project that we've been talking about for so long. They listened. We know that one will not get funded through our representative's office, but they're going to work with us on another project next year. However, Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith and Senator Wicker seemed very open to it. More positive than that was their staff told me that it is on the list that will be submitted to the committee. We were not on that list last year, so that puts us a whole lot closer. And one of the chief of staffs and I have been playing phone tag this week, trying to get in touch with each other so I can get a better brief on that item. But Alderman Piper, do you want to add anything to how you thought it went? I thought it was very positive.
Yeah, it was positive, and certainly in meeting with Senator Hyde-Smith, she mentioned that she is on the Appropriations Committee. The chair of that committee is Susan Collins, who I think is an independent from Maine. I think that's right. And she requested to be the ranking member on the Transportation Subcommittee for Appropriations, so if that makes sense. So where the money is going for transportation within the federal government, it has to go through her and in the Senate. So us asking for, a lot of money, a lot of money for the I-55 widening is certainly in a very good place right now with her overseeing a lot of that. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It could be years away, but that was definitely an encouraging sign. And then I would say just the overall united front that the county and all the municipalities gave was a really big deal. I think for the people that are on the staffs there and the elected officials that are up there, they aren't used to having 30 or 40 people walk into their offices and request 3 or 4 things. So I think that we left there with some optimism.
And a little history on this trip, for those of you that don't know, this is where all the mayors in the county, a couple of aldermen from each city, and the whole board of supervisors go up. It's been going on for about 25 years, and that is how we funded I-69, I-269, and the Regional Sewer Authority. So it doesn't feel like you're getting things done every trip, but it adds up, and suddenly you've got some multi-million-dollar project that's happening. So I think we're on the right path. So if there are no other questions from the board, that's our brief on that. I'll move on to the consent agenda. Item 7 is the consent agenda. We have a motion on that item.
Motion to approve. Second.
The motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And that motion passes. And I forgot to tell everyone that Alderwoman Lynch is with us remotely. So there are 6 board members here tonight.
All right, we're full. We are looking for you. Hello.
Can I have a motion on the personnel docket?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And that motion passes. Number 9 is the donations docket.
Motion to approve.
Second.
The motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And that motion passes. Next is item 10. the request from the Nesbit Water Association for an ingress-egress easement at the fire station on Highway 51 to access a new elevated water tank they're going to be building. Mark, would you like to, you and I have been talking, but can you come up and explain to the board what y'all are up to?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Nesbit has been planning on this for quite some time, on putting a new tank up in the area. Due to the past things that's gone on in the north area, we were awarded a grant to put a water tower up. We're on the clock. We had property secured, and the FAA shot it down. We could not put a tank there. So our secondary location that we are in the process of acquiring is behind number 7 fire station. Is that the number?
Number 2.
Number 2 fire station in Nesbit. And we're going to go directly behind there, 360 feet, 160 feet of property to put a tank there. And Nesbit is looking for an ingress, egress to come across the north side of Hernando's fire station so we can have access to that property. Because this has been a much-needed water supply in the North Hernando area. It serves both Nesbit Water Association and the Hernando area. So I would ask the board that they would consider this ingress egress. It's roughly about 30 feet, and it will go in again on the north side, and so we can get access to the tank and build it without disturbing y'all's property.
And so Mark and I have been talking about it, and I've talked with Chief Berry, obviously, because that's his fire department, and at some point he might want to put some sort of training facility there, but we figured that on that very north side, up against that tree line, there could be another drive put in. It would run behind the current animal shelter, so we're not really using that area. It would be out of the way. They agreed to put in a paved or concrete drive to match what we've got. And also, the one other thing I'd asked Mark about, because we did spend a lot of money making that building look nice, and then when we built the little animal shelter back there, we bricked it, was that if he would put, instead of a chain link fence, put some sort of a wrought iron fence around the facility so it would kind of match the style of our building. So.
And I have to get that obviously approved through my board, but we are kind of at a standstill here because we're on the clock. This grant expires.
Right.
And if we don't get this thing moving, it's going to be a big loss to our communities, plural.
And Mark, I haven't updated you on this, but we were worried, you know, we have to get a curb cut permit from MDOT. And so I called Mitch Turner and told him what we were going to have to, because we would have to apply for the curb cut because it's our property. And he said since it was just for access for maintenance and stuff, he sees no problem in that. So it'd probably be 1 truck a day going in there to check the water tank. So it's not like a lot of traffic. So we'd probably be able to get that curb cut.
So that's where we are. And I would appreciate y'all considering that so we can move forward. And I think it's a win-win situation for both entities. Y'all have any other questions for me?
And for those of you that don't know, I should have said something. Mark Harris is the president of the Nesbit Water Association.
Been there about 22, 23 years. So
Just for clarity and stuff, who's gonna pay to do all the engineer work to make sure that the egress and everything is done? Y'all gonna pay for all that?
yes, sir.
If within approval, I will make sure that that is noted in the record, that all expenses, well, once you get through, I deal with once you get through with all your conversation,
Yeah, I'm through.
the public, got anything?
Oh, yeah, does anybody in the public want to talk about this? Anybody else on the board? Alderman Miller?
Well, I'd like to make a motion to grant the Nesbit Water Association, ingress and egress, even on the north side, property of our fire station located on Highway 51, and also that all expense associated with this will be incurred by the Nesbit Water Association, including all the engineer fees,
What about the fence?
all fees.
What about the fence?
Well,
What kind of, I know we've talked.
Just like a,
What-
it can be.
I was going to ask, what do y'all currently have around y'all's? Is it, what kind?
We haven't upgraded ours yet.
Okay, okay. All right. Well, like I
see what
said,
you're
I know
getting at.
that the board is very gracious and I'll have a pretty lean hand on that, on getting that done, so.
You can include the fence then, you know, but all expenses will be incurred by the
And
Nears Water Association.
thank you. Thank you.
Second.
So motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion passes.
Thank y'all.
Get your property purchased, Mark.
Yeah. We're on it.
Okay, item 11 is a planning item. If you would come forward, Austin.
All right, PL 1728, Nesbit Industrial Phase 13. The request is for a final plat approval of Phase 13 of Nesbit Industrial Park. It includes 5 lots on 10.5 total acres. This is the southern point of the existing industrial subdivision south of Nesbit Drive, west of Highway 51. Robert Davis is the property owner. Greg Smith tonight is here representing him. The lots are zoned M1 light industrial, and they're all currently vacant, do have access to centralized water and sewer. As shown, all the lots meet or exceed the development requirements of that zoning district. This subdivision in particular has had several phased approvals as they go on, and so this is the next phase of the drive. 1 or 2 more phases to go. The most recent approval was PL 1611 in April of 2022. And then to note on the standard subdivision approval criteria, it's 1 through 9 on this case. And then just a brief point on the numbering of these lots. You'll notice they don't start at 1. They go from 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's to fall in sequence of the previous phase. Chancery's starting to like stuff to go into sequence. And so instead of doing phase 13, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's going as such. I did propose a motion in your staff report for approval. Mr. Gregg's here tonight, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Does anyone have any questions or concerns from the board? Is there anyone here with the public to speak on this item? If not, could we have a motion?
Mayor, I motion to grant final plat approval for Phase 13 Nesbit Industrial Park, 5 lots, 10.5 acres located on the southern terminus of Nesbit Drive, south of Nesbit Road, west of US Highway 51, east of Gwynn Road, in Section 25, Township 2 South, Range 8 West, based upon a finding that the submitted final plat generally conforms to the requirements of the city's code and ordinances, subject to the following conditions 1 through 9.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no, and that motion passes. Move on to item 12.
This is PL 1729. This is a request for final plat approval for the Lee Summit Phase 5B, lots 1 through 5, and it does include 1 common open space. Greg Russell's here tonight from Neil Schaefer, representing Focal Point LLC, the owner. It's on the south side of Monteith Avenue, east of McInville Road. As I mentioned, it's 5 lots, 1 common open space on 10 acres. It is a part of the Lee Summit PUD, but it's subject to the C4 bulk regulations. And a little history of this site. This is the site that we approved the PUD modification to allow the mini storage on the rearmost portion of this lot. This final plat was approved in a similar fashion, actually at the same date as the last application on April 12th, 2022, but was never recorded. And the reason for that is, as part of their PUD revision, you may remember the mini storage was required to only be located on the rear portion of the lot. And so what that's created the need for was a vacant parcel in front of that. So with the mini storage being located only in the rear parcel, this revision splits that 1 lot into 2. And so on the eastern side of the road, you've got a frontage lot with the mini storage being behind it. And so the revision technically is for the the eastern portion of this subdivision. This does conform to the PUD requirements listed in the original Lee Summit PUD. And something additional the board may want to consider is on the lots on the western side, lots 1 through 3, that there be 1 shared access point rather than 3 on the McInville Road. And I've talked with the applicant about this, and he's agreed, but that would be listed as an ingress-egress easement on the plat to prevent 3 curb cuts on the McInville being shared to 1, which I think would help with traffic. Other than that single condition, the rest of the subdivision conditions are the standard 1 through 11 in this case, 17 in this case. Mr. Gregg's available, and I'm available if you have any questions.
I thought that was gonna be like a retention pond up front.
There is one. So the retention ponds along Monteith Avenue, and
Right.
that is the common open space that I mentioned.
Okay.
And then there's a 1.3 acre piece between that and then where the mini storage is gonna be. which is
Okay,
the
so
additional
they're
lot.
separating that one then.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I didn't think we wanted any openings onto McInville because of that curve and the way that traffic is. We wanted everything to,
The last plat application had it limited to just one, but we can consider that if you see fit.
Yeah, I'd rather have none.
I mean, that's a very dangerous area as far as coming around that curve. I know it's wooded right now, just inside that curve. If you're, plus now we have that, convenience store that's that opens onto McInville and Holly Springs. I'm just concerned that there's gonna be accidents there because that curve's so weird anyway. If there's any way of going around, just, if it's gonna make sense to not have any openings there, I just think that's gonna be dangerous. We're gonna have wrecks, because somebody's gonna stop all of a sudden and wanna go in there, and you're not gonna see them coming around that curve if you're going, west on Holly Springs. That's my biggest concern.
Sure, I'll have to defer to the applicant to see if he agrees, but I understand.
Okay.
So is it, as it's currently zoned, are there 0 on McInville or 1 on McInville?
So
Codes.
right now, per the plat that was submitted, he could have up to 3 pending the subdivision regulations. My recommendation was reducing that down to 1 to be shared on 2, or excuse me, lot number 2, because there is frontage on the interior cove and McInville Road. And we do have rules about spacing and distances from intersections and everything like that. But if it's to be completely eliminated as a condition of this plat, I'll have to defer to the applicant.
And eventually there'll be a roundabout there too, correct?
That's correct.
I mean, that's what we were proposing, budget allowing it for sure, but, that's just a really tricky area with that curve.
So Alderman Ross, your preference is not to have one at all off of McInville?
Well, you're saying it's
Is
gonna.
that
you're
what I'm hearing you saying?
I mean, I'm wondering if it could work without having any openings there on McInville, because, I mean, you've got Toyota right across from all this.
Right.
Okay? You've got a storage unit right up there, and then you've got that curve, which will be developed as well. It's just not sold at this point, the very depth of that curve. And then you've got the fire station when you're going east on Holly Springs, if you can visualize that.
Oh, yeah.
You come around, and you've got an opening right there across from Toyota, and that's where this is Lot 2 is.
My only question,
I think it's gonna be dangerous.
what would your traffic come out at, what would the traffic come out at then? I mean,
It's gonna have to come off of Monteith.
and so then we'll put more into a street, in my opinion, that's not up to the same standard as the other streets, so we're finna put more traffic and stuff on Monteith coming out from here. Correct? I mean, 'cause the traffic got to go somewhere.
Well, Monteith's wide enough. I mean, it's a normal width, and you've got the church up in there. But, I mean, normally, I mean, if you're going into these, whatever's going to be built in there, shops, whatever, restaurant, whatever it is, you're not going to go through Lee's Summit and around to get to it. You're going to come around, take a right on Monteith, right across from that storage unit, and enter, because they're building a stub road right now that's going to run down where the storage unit is. And of course, all that on the west, I guess the west side of where that stub road is, that's all the lots. So that's where you would be turning into one of those from McInville.
Something MDOT does to help control is sometimes they'll only issue a right turn in, right turn out only, rather than a full access intersection. So folks leaving Lot 2 would have to go right, folks entering would have to enter to the right. You couldn't stack traffic to the left, and same thing going southbound on McInvale.
Would we have that, what do you call it, where you've got the extra lane over there?
They'll be improving McInvale.
Yeah, there will be a lane improvement.
Well, you know how anytime any of these subdivisions are built and they've got like an extra, it's just, I've lost my,
Like a deceleration lane?
I mean, Toyota has it on their side of McInvale. Would we have that on that side of McInvale?
They would, as they develop, they'd be
Yeah.
required to do that.
All their frontage to McInville would have to be improved to a half a lane.
Well, if we did that, then that one opening would work. But otherwise, you're
it's
gonna
required.
have,
They
you're gonna
got
run
to
into the
do
back
it.
of somebody taking a right, and they're gonna be flying around that curve like they do already.
Yep.
Because I go through it numerous
'Cause, you know,
times
they
a
got to
day,
do
every
that,
day.
though.
It's kind of like where they're building the car wash right next to the restaurant. They share one,
Right.
and that limits the curb cuts. I think that's the idea of what they're proposing. Not have three, just one instead. And then I feel certain some of those businesses, those people would exit out the back, maybe come in the front, maybe some of them would go out the back. It seems very similar to where you see Kentucky Fried Chicken and Taco Bell and all that. They have an entrance on McInvale or out the back into that road in the Walmart parking lot.
Right, I'm just not sold on having it there on McInvale, just because I know how people fly around that curve. But if you're gonna have it, an extra lane added to the right to where you can get over and turn, that's fine. But if you're not gonna have an extra lane to turn, and it stay as it is right now, then I say no. But if we add an extra lane to where you're going to use it to get over, and the people that are flying around the curve, they have their own lane, and they're not accessing the same lanes, then it would work.
Yeah, as a part of our subdivision regulations, they're required to improve all frontages to the ultimate right-of-way. So what you see at Toyota would be across the street as well as they develop.
I mean, that could work. I still don't like it, though. That's just me, because I drive there, I live out there. I drive it every single day. And so that just worries me. And that curve's already messed up until we get a roundabout there, or whatever we do. Straighten it out, whatever we do,
Yeah, one is definitely better than the three they had originally.
right?
Any other discussion? Is there anyone here that wants to speak to this subject? Did you want to speak?
Yes, sir. I'm Greg Russell with Neil Schaefer, 5740 Getwell in South Haven. I certainly, I think in reducing this from 3 to 1, we have acknowledged that there is a safety issue there. But we are adding the lane widening. I think that it's also important for these businesses to have that convenience of at least being able to come in on the front instead of all of the traffic being put on the back. But that being said, there is going to be a lane widening out there. So that'll help protect.
Yeah, just the ongoing west, traveling west on Holly Springs. That's my biggest concern. And coming around that curve.
Well, eventually hopefully, that intersection will be upgraded.
Yeah. Sometimes we get the cart before the horse, though. Things don't get upgraded, and then it becomes a little bit of a danger until it does. And so that's my biggest concern. I don't have any problems with the development in there. It's just that entrance and exit onto McInvale. But I'm fine with it going from, of course, I didn't want 3 over there. That would be crazy. But,
In Austin, they won't be able to get a final until that lane is added, is that correct?
Or be appropriately bonded.
Okay.
But it will be constructed.
We know you'll construct it, yeah. Any other questions?
Austin, is there anything in there where and I know it probably doesn't, but is it show where the parking is gonna be? Is the parking gonna be,
Not yet.
Okay.
We won't know until they submit for a certificate of development. It'll be a tricky design review because we almost triple frontage would be very visible buildings, similar to Taco Bell and some of the others. The car wash is under construction, so all four corners of the building have to be pretty. It's the short of it.
because I mean, to me, it seems like what we would want to strive for is to have their businesses close to Mackinville where they're most visible and have their parking behind,
Absolutely.
right? Rather than have like a parking lot off of Mackinville Road and have a business push further back. So,
Because they're gonna have that back cove as their entrance, correct? Where they're making that stub road now, up in
It'll be
there?
a secondary entrance if this is approved with the shared access at 2. Primary entrance will be the new cove. off of
Okay.
Monteith.
Any other questions or concerns? If not, could I have a motion?
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Alderman Miller.
I move to grant final plaque approval to Police Summit Phase 5B lots 1 through 5, commercial development located on the south side of Monteith, east of Mackinville, subject to the staff comments, and also to include the standards 1 through 17, to also include one shared drive on Mackinville.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
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 Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Russell. Austin, you want to talk about the food truck discussion tonight?
Yes, sir. So, as you all know, we presented a prior ordinance that was very complex. I modeled it after Oxford, just as a starting point to get the feelers out there with the board. And I've communicated with several folks in the community, several restaurants, and some of the board members. And a couple of glaring things came out. The first of which was they wanted some level of protection for the restaurants that have invested time, money in being a property owner in the Hernando. So they wanted something to separate out or give them a level of say in when these food trucks set up and where and how. And the second thing is that the general public does want an opportunity for food trucks. And so, with all that being said, what we came back with in this food truck ordinance was a few things. The first of which, food trucks would only be allowed in mobile food vendor parks. And so you've probably seen these in other cities where they're clustered together in one location and they have bathroom facilities and, you know, they're trash facilities, everything's accounted for. And a part of that is to make those food vendor parks by conditional use. And so what that means is they'd have to come from the planning commission and prove all of those things, their trash, their parking, their bathrooms. And it also require us to send out notices to within 500 feet, which I think would give the planning commission and the public an opportunity to come say if this is an appropriate place or not. And so food trucks would be handled on a case-by-case basis if commercially run. There is a provision in here for nonprofits, like if a church wanted to have a festival or the A Fair here in town, they'd come in front of the board and basically ask for permission to run a nonprofit event, and at y'all's discretion, it could be approved or denied. So
And that's pretty much what we're doing right now with those special ones, the A Fair, the Water Tower Festival, and all those.
yes, sir. And so commercially, it seemed to be what everyone cared about. And so we have A through F on some conditions about taxes and health department approvals and business licenses, just the nuts and bolts of the application. But in reality, what this will do is limit food trucks to commercial and industrial zones by conditional use. And so what it would take is someone coming in with a piece of property and said, I want to have a food truck park here. He would have to come in front of the planning commission, or she would have to come in front of the planning commission and say, here's my hours of operation, here's what I'm doing for bathrooms, and it would be a public hearing at the planning commission to see if it's an appropriate place. And so that was the best I could do with the safeguard of both worlds, is to give these folks an opportunity somewhere to go, but also give the restaurants who invested time, money, and effort of being in Hernando a say. And I do want to be clear that what this will also do is eliminate food trucks that you currently see on Commerce. And so we have food trucks that are setting up and using the gray area, right or wrong, of setting up on Commerce. If you're not located in a food truck park, that you would no longer be allowed. That gray area would go away. And so I want to make that clear for the record in full transparency. So what this would do is allow events, churches, fairs, city events, anything else would have to be in mobile food vendor park.
What about the HOAs?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, so, residentially zoned parcels, HOAs are allowed to do it. I think I put it in
Was it 12 times a year in an HOA?
within a subdivision. An HOA can have like a monthly get-together in the subdivision on common open space property. And so this ordinance you see in front of you tonight is for the purpose of discussion. I'll bring you back a hard document of the technicalities of all of this, but for the purpose of discussion, commercial zones are limited to food vendor parks. The events are dictated by y'all, and then residentially zoned parcels and subdivisions can have 10 times in a subdivision. And honestly, I'm gonna have to figure out a good way to word that, because I don't want it to be, I think common sense tells us we know what this is intended for, but the way our world works is common sense isn't there a whole lot. So we wanna make sure that HOAs can set up and have a community event once a month.
And another thing that Gia has helped us on to understand, because of the farmer's market, she understands sales tax rules. Let's just, the ones that are showing up around town now, if they're from South Haven, they've got a sales tax permit, but it's a South Haven sales tax permit. So any sales taxes they're collecting are being credited to South Haven. They can get another sales tax permit for Hernando, and we have to make sure that everyone that operates in the city has a Hernando sales tax permit, and that's part of this.
Yeah, 10 times per year, once a month, like essentially once a month.
Y'all have any questions for Austin?
It's too cold, I guess.
So for the residential, you said it was just HOA, but like what if someone just at their personal home had a food truck?
Would they be offering sale to everybody, or would this be like for an event?
You know, if they just had like a birthday party or something, does that count as one of the 10 times in the neighborhood?
No, ma'am, it's not intended to. If you're not selling to the general public, it's like a private event, almost like catering.
Okay, gotcha.
So that would be allowed.
Right.
Okay.
If you had it at your home.
And you're having a birthday party and it's a hot dog truck, then that's fine, because it's a catering is what kind of how we would consider that.
But if somebody came into like one of the subdivisions and said, we want to set up on a Saturday, and it's not for anybody's birthday or any one home's doing it.
That's
They
where
can't
it's
just-
times. They have to be asked in there by the HOA. They can't just go set up.
And it can't be on a public street. It has to be on private properties where that permission thing comes in.
Where do you come up with 10 times a year when we have 12 months out of a year?
On another ordinance, they said 10 times a year, and it's just that's a starting point. So it's just for discussion.
I just said it's too cold 2 months out of the year. Probably can't.
Fair enough.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, like
they
a
might be
hot-
selling hot chocolate and
Hot chocolate
stuff.
truck,
I mean, you
yeah,
know?
I don't know.
I'm just saying, it doesn't make sense to have it 10 times a year when we have 12 months, so that'd be at least once a month.
Yeah, I mean, it was an addition. I think that was actually from the Oxford ordinance, but this is. I wanted any and all discussion we can get from y'all, so I can bring you back a hard document. We can.
If y'all want to take a pause on the board and see if the public wants to speak, y'all ready for that? Sure. Is there anyone here that wants to speak? I kind of felt like somebody back there was here to speak on this. If you would come up and state your name for the record.
While she's walking up, I did want to say I know that we got emailed some comments from
Mr. Kitchens.
Yeah, can we make that part of the record for?
We can have Austin read that in a few minutes.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi, thanks. I'm Tina with Coffee Central, and my husband Alan's here. As a local-owned business, pays taxes to Hernando, and possibly a future food truck or coffee truck, probably. So I'm excited about the options of food trucks in general. So just for clarity, the ordinance would state that there's going to be a food truck park, right? Is it something that the city would mandate, or someone could come in and purchase property to have a park? Is that what you're saying?
Theoretically, either. I think it would be someone coming in to do a park.
Okay.
I think the city could, but we're not planning on that right
Okay.
now. We have enough irons in the fire
Okay,
without
yeah.
trying to manage a food truck.
And you did, yeah, right, exactly. And you did touch on the taxes. I think that's super important. As a local business owner, we pay taxes in, so I think it puts us on a level playing field that city taxes should be collected, and it should be a benefit to the city.
And you got
Yeah.
businesses in two towns. You
Oh,
know
both
you
city,
can get,
yeah.
you can get two different permits for sure.
Right, exactly. And the other municipalities do the same thing with having a designated area, so like that's super good. Let's see, what was my other question that I had? Obviously, if it's local, so you talked about the restrooms and all the cleanup would be, because it would be private property if they did that. Let's see, other thing. So the food trucks that are currently operating in the gray space, as you said, so they wouldn't be able to operate in the future ordinance, but they're currently still operating, inappropriately now. So would there be citations, or how would that be, policed, if you will?
How would you enforce that also?
How would you enforce
I
that?
hope that we would just serve a warning citation and they'd stop, but
Okay.
we would go to court if we had to.
Okay, all right, so that's good.
Yeah, right now, there's a transient vendor law out there.
Right.
And unless we have something regulating, we don't feel like we can just tell them to stop. That's why
Right.
it's just been kind of the wild, wild
Yeah.
west recently.
Yeah.
But we want to make it legal
Yeah.
and
we
controlled.
Yeah, I just think taxes are super important, so that's good, because we want that for our city. And then have a specific designated area, which is great to hear, so. Alan, did I miss anything? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aaron, Cindy, were y'all here to speak? Certainly want to give you an opportunity. You're a good business in our town. We want to hear from you.
My name's Aaron with AC's. That's the first that I've heard of that. We've actually talked about trying to develop one of those. But the benefits for the community on there is the health department in Mississippi is very stretched thin. When you have moving targets, those are never gonna get checked. If they're in an area like that, you're gonna get some, at least, ability for them to make sure that they're serving safe stuff.
Okay, you're saying that the inspector could go to inspect 12 at one time?
Absolutely,
Okay.
rather than
Makes
moving
sense.
targets, and that should be something that's considered, because without that, they're never get inspected, so you'll never find them, so,
Okay,
something that you think about.
thank you.
Thank you.
So I think what Austin has presented to us was for discussion, and if these are all things that y'all agree with, or if you want 12 instead of 10 or something different, let him know now, because what we want to do is have him able to bring this back in ordinance form at the next meeting. This is not ready to vote on, it's just to get us headed towards the ordinance form. We can properly advertise it and move forward.
So real quick, I'm gonna run through this real quick. You know that I like to ask questions. I'm sorry that I ask a lot of questions. I just do. Commercial zones, it's a conditional use. Somebody can get, whether it's C1 through C4, someone could purchase a C1 through C4 and have a conditional use request to the planning commission for a park like this. The same goes for industrial, whether it's light or heavy, right?
Yes.
Manufacturing is not addressed, right?
M1 or M2 would be manufacturing, so the AWG is what
Right.
a lot of folks say.
Right.
They're in M1.
They're in M1, so that would be,
Okay, so that's included in the industrial part, all right. And then residential, there's HOAs that can have 10 events per year. Private people can do them, I guess, as often as they want to,
for a birthday party.
for,
event, or
for
a family
whatever.
event.
We kind of think about them at a private event.
Right.
It's the same as hiring Scotty's Barbecue to come to your house to cater. It's just
Hiring an inflatable company to come
Yeah.
set up a water slide, right, okay.
Because they're not selling to people, they're just free to that one, or the one person's paying them for everything.
Okay. And then agricultural, they would need to have it rezoned and then get a conditional use permit, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You wanted it 12, Beth?
It's only makes sense.
I mean,
I mean, let's give some even numbers on how many months we have in a year.
I do know there's the Buena Vista subdivision south of town, during the summer, they have them quite often.
Yeah.
But they don't during the winter, so they may use that. We wouldn't be regulating them, of course, but in a subdivision HOA situation, they are very popular.
I mean, you know, if they choose not to do anything, like in the winter months, they can put their overflow into the summer months, whatever they want to do. But at least it makes sense when we have 12 months in a year, once a month.
And this may not be a Austin Cardozi question, so I'm sorry if it isn't. So if you have this property or whatever else, would they be able to file for like an on-premise beer and wine? Or what would that look like?
To be honest with you, I've heard answers on both sides of that, whether it is or is not allowed. I do know it's not up to us, it's up to ABC.
Okay.
There's been a provision for craft beer versus a margarita truck, and it kind of depends on who you talk to, but the jurisdiction is not mine, it's the ABC's.
Yeah. That was a question for a friend of mine, not myself. I'm not,
But you wanted to know the answer.
I just had to know, I needed to know. I need, my constituents had questions.
People have had beer trucks at their,
Yeah.
on their personal property for parties.
That's right.
So that wouldn't even,
And that may be it, and I know, I don't want to speak out of turn, I don't know.
Yeah, the Alcohol and
Yeah.
Beverage Commission has their own rules, and they will
Yeah.
certainly police it. We have 2 of their agents that live in Hernando, so they will
Yep.
stay on top of that.
Okay.
All right, so what I'm hearing is the only change to this would be 12 instead of 10 in HOAs, and then he'll go back and produce us an ordinance to bring to the next meeting. Is everybody
Thank
good with
you.
that?
Good with it.
Okay. Yeah, there's no need to make a motion or vote. He just kind of wanted some guidance, so. Okay, we will move on to item 14. Joe, would you like to come up and present 14? This is the Crossroads subdivision north up Highway 51, right before Green Tea.
Okay, it is, you know where it is up on 51 there. They completed their streets a couple of weeks ago, final lift of asphalt on it. Of course, now Cal Wilkins wants to get his construction bond released. And I don't think he really understood he had to do a maintenance bond now, but that would be what would be next.
He called me this morning and he understands it and he's okay.
Okay, he's okay. So we've set a maintenance bond of $35,000. It reads 2 years on there. That should read 1 year.
Yeah, our ordinance calls for 1 year, right, Austin?
1 year.
Yeah.
I think the county's 2 years, but I think ours is just 1. And we've made him out a list of items that he needs to take care of during this year. So it's kind of where we are on that.
Can I have a motion on that item?
I have just one question, just for the engineer. Do we need to review ours and up it to 2 years? Or you go through these subdivisions, these roads falling apart. I'm just saying that,
Okay.
you know, it's protecting the citizen and still helping developer, you know. I'd like our planning department to revisit the 1 year maintenance bond and look at the possibility of increasing it to 2 years.
Work with Public Works and the city engineer on that,
Yeah.
all 3 altogether.
And come back with a recommendation, whether to stay at a year or go to 2 years.
Specifically in areas that are, that we're county and we're annexed in and have been, previously approved or whatever else, they may not have the same thresholds.
Sure.
I think that's where some of the big issues are.
We'll take a close look at that.
Look at that.
Okay. All right. If there's nothing else, can we have a
So
motion?
move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no, and the motion passes. Item 15 is the approval to create a Parks Capital Improvement Committee and appoint me, the Parks Director, Alderman Miller, Alderman Wicker, and Alderwoman Lynch. As we move forward, it just came to us the other day, some people were talking about improving the bathrooms at baseball, and then somebody else came on to talk about adding some other facilities, and Jerry and I had a lot of questions that we thought we needed some alderman input on. We feel this will be ongoing, especially with us buying the Civic Center ball fields. We're going to be constantly trying to do what we can within budget to improve the parks. So we thought we needed this Parks Capital Improvement Committee. That would be a standing committee, and when we meet, would be advertised publicly on the door of City Hall, so citizens could attend if they wanted. So we just feel the need for that one for a little more guidance.
That's
We
great.
need
Can I have a motion on that?
motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no, and that motion passes. Next is the discussion about moving the city ward polling locations. We had talked about some, and I think we had kind of agreed on 2 of them, and y'all had sent us back to do some work to find out about the others. So I think everybody is good with Ward 1 and 2 at the Gale Center.
Correct.
Okay. And Wards 5 and 6 at Colonial Hills Church.
Yes.
And so now in Ward 4, we've got the Summit Church, Nesbit Water Association, First Baptist Church of Nesbit, and the Redemption Church that have all said okay. And Pastor Rob White with the First Presbyterian Church is putting this in front of his session to get an answer, if we need it, on this coming Sunday. So that could be an option. But right now, we know these 4 that are listed for Wards 3 and 4 are viable options.
I'm speaking on behalf of Alderman Wicker, that is the Alderman of Ward 4. And it's his preference, because he can't be in because of family obligation tonight, that out of the ones that we presently have, the location that we presently have, since we don't have the McInville, are the ones that's presently listed, his preference would be the Redemption Church at 625 Highway 51 South, to eliminate people going all the way north to Nesbit. It'd be total inconvenience for the majority of the residents.
No, I would agree with that, but I'd also like to look at the Presbyterian Church.
No, that's why
on
I said that he wasn't, I said, based on what was presented tonight, that we have before us.
Yep. Let's see what we can get.
So I think that what the Alderman in that area is saying, Mayor, is that out of, I think that the first 3 is probably eliminated.
So Redemption Church would be the only one we leave on this list, and then wait to
Look
get
at
First Presbyterian.
I think that's what the Alderman in that area is saying.
I'm good with that.
And then we can just bring you back those 2 at the next board meeting.
I think,
We will
I'm just
move
speaking on behalf of Alderman Wicker.
Yep.
I would just say let's not to go to those other 3 and tell them anything just yet.
Right, yeah, for
Because
sure,
if we have First Presbyterian come in and then we decide, well, let's put these wards here and these here, or however we end up doing
We
it.
won't tell any of them.
I think we just need to leave as many options open as possible.
We live now.
Huh?
We live.
That's fine. Well, of course we're live. Of course we're live. I'm just saying. I just want to make
We'll
sure.
leave all of our options open.
I'm just saying we leave all our options open. That's all I'm saying.
We're just trying to make it convenient, as convenient
That's
for the
right.
voters as possible. That
That's the
fits
thing.
within those wards. That's,
Well, I remember when I was in
why we're
Ward
moving.
4 and had to drive all the way up to Fire Station number 2, it seemed a little odd. You know, it was quite a
Yeah.
hike. So the closer to home, the more voters we get, which is what we all want. So.
well, with 3 and 5 and 4 and 6 broken up the way it was, it didn't make sense. So, I think it makes sense to combine them in the order.
I think what y'all are coming up
Numerically.
with is making a lot better sense. for the
Numerically,
voters.
yes.
Okay. Well, we will wait on the Presbyterian Church and bring it back to the next board meeting, if you'll make a note of that for the next agenda. Okay. We'll move on from item 16 to 17, the discussion of the 2-hour parking limit on the square.
And Alderman Pfeiffer, this is one that the public brought up. I spent a lot of time on the square, on my other job. And over the course of months and time that on a serious note, that the business owners on the square are very, I would say, discouraged and dissatisfied about the lack of non-enforcement of our 2-hour parking limit. And it's to the point that I know that the chief them don't receive those calls now because the business owner has said now that we did all the calling in time past and nothing happened. And so now what's happening currently now, a person that was not parking and was obeying the 2 hours, after they found out there was non-enforcement, so they started parking there now. Lawyers and other professionals, which they was abiding by one while, but now they since there's no enforcement of it, that they don't start taking up parking place. So it's just, and I did talk with the chief. There's nothing, and I ain't blindsided him on it, but we did have a discussion about it, and I think he's thinking about some things that might can help eliminate what we know is a problem.
And the whole purpose of that ordinance is not that somebody stays and has a long dinner for 2.5 hours at Windy City. We're not after that. We're trying to protect the businesses from the people who park there for 8 hours while they go to their job. Because there are plenty of other parking places around the square. We identified those years ago. The admin building parking lot always has 40 empty parking spots. There's places for employees to park down the street. And of course, if you'll notice, we do the same thing here at City Hall. All the city employees park over here, and we save the good spots for the customers. And that's what's supposed to be happening. We need to save those spots on the square for those retail establishments, and that's what the law is in place for. So, Chief, you've kind of started putting a plan together about how you're gonna try to handle it?
Yes.
Okay. Alderman Miller, did you?
I definitely think
So, and I think tonight what we need to do is make sure that you spread the word, anybody that's watching remotely, that the 2-hour parking limit will be enforced very soon. It's just kind of due to lack of manpower and other things, it just hasn't been enforced, but we're going to start working on it because those business owners want to have those parking spots open for their customers.
How long has it been in place?
Chief, do you remember?
3-4 years maybe.
It's been more than that because I was mayor before when we did it. Probably been 5 or 6 years.
Are there signs?
Is it the entire?
There's signage.
There's signs up.
I guess I just hadn't noticed the signs.
Is it
I will
both
notice
sides?
when I go
All
around the square tonight.
On the city property. The parking spots
Not the
around
interior
courthouse are owned by
parking around the courthouse.
The
The
county.
interior
That's county.
property
Yeah.
is county property. But the exterior is city, and that's where we have signage there. This signage there.
About every 4th parking spot, it says 2-hour parking. in
Okay,
this area.
maybe I've seen it.
Is it Monday to Friday,
Monday through
Kind of
Friday,
8 to
forgotten.
5 or something like that?
8 to 5.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's not weekends, though.
yeah. And Chief, you think since we have not been enforcing it, we could do a little bit of warning on the front end? Or are you gonna be just writing tickets?
My question is, how would you like us to warn the cars that are parked there? Because if they go into to court and they're in court for 3 hours, you know, here's your warning. With us start enforcing the 2 hours parking on the square.
Yeah.
But it's not on the county side. It's not inside the circle, it's outside the circle, around, okay.
Well, I think the one would be the warning ticket on the windshield.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's a city ordinance, so it's not like it goes against the insurance or anything.
Right,
So I mean, the warning gonna be a ticket on the windshield.
yeah.
It won't be.
Chief,
It
that
won't.
is
It
your
won't be the
purview,
boot.
so however you wanna handle it.
It won't be the boot like downtown.
All right,
Booted and
everybody's aware
suited.
of the direction we're moving in, so.
Oxford's got the worst parking situation.
We are going to move on to item 18, which was tabled from the May 2nd meeting, which is the approval for the city of Hernando to enter into the partnership with Shelby County, Tennessee for the planning grant application for the Mid-South Regional Climate Action Plan and authorize me to sign it. And I think Austin had sent y'all back out a list of answers to a lot of the questions that were raised at the last board meeting, just for clarification. And I think those answers came from Jerry Darby, who is running that program for Shelby County and lives in Hernando.
I
Have a
mean,
motion on that item?
I say,
And I guess the biggest thing that is we said on our last meeting that phase one obligate us to end nothing other than just to be in partnership to do it. it's when we get down to phase 2 or 3 where we really have some critical decision to make and see whether or not it's to the benefit of the city to move forward with that. And at that time, we could always opt out, but right now, like I said, this phase 1, as I call it, phase 1, step 1, obligate us to no money, but give us the ability to maybe on later in phase 1, 2, or 3 to extract some money that would help us in, doing projects of benefit. So, I share other people's concern, but I think that this is I ain't gonna say a no-brainer, then folks say I'll be, saying the wrong thing, but I think this is a opportunity for us to, so if no more discussion, I'm ready to make a motion whenever your discussion's over with.
Okay, is there a motion?
I make a motion that we enter into the partnership with Shelby County Tennessee for a plan and grant application for the Mid-South Regional Climate Action Plan and authorize the mayor to sign it.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, no.
No.
And the motion passes. Thank you all. Item 19 was something I've been thinking about for a long time, and Alderman Ross brought it up. And I obviously agree. This is the discussion declaring Bush Lawn Park lot on Green Key Road as surplus and to sell it. It was donated to us years ago to be a park. We've never found a use for it. We have spent city money repairing the dam on the pond. We have spent untold numbers of hours of labor over the years just keeping it mowed. And we really don't think it's a viable piece of our Parks Department. It's just a drain on us. So, if we could if the board wants to declare it surplus, we could put it up for bids and see if a builder wanted to buy it. Or maybe one of the next door neighbors wants to buy it to have a bigger yard. But, and I don't, quite frankly, I was talking to somebody today and I said, even if we get a lower number than we think we should get, at least we've unloaded the burden on the city.
Right. I mean, we're not maintaining it. We won't maintain it anymore, and we can use that money for park improvements that we need
And it'll go
money
back
for.
on, no, it'll go back on the tax rolls.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that has a differing opinion that thinks it should not be declared surplus?
I think it's really just a question of timing. Like, is this the best time to do it, or should we wait for the market to be stronger? Because you've got the land, so you can always hold it until the market conditions are a little riper, in my opinion. But
I think these builders are looking for little lots around town. I think, actually, Bruce, you know more about that market than most
No,
of us. You
I
deal
think the
with
market's
builders.
right, right now.
It's an established neighborhood. There's not a lot of open lots.
I think regardless of whether the market is right or wrong, the step is going to declaring it surplus. And then we can determine when and where we want to sell. But the most important thing is just going to declare it surplus now. And then you make the determination then whether the market is right. But the most important thing is declaring it surplus.
It doesn't force us to sell it for
No, that's
that
what I'm saying.
low
It's
bid.
just
We can
declaring it
hang on to it
surplus.
for as long as we want to.
I think that, am I correct, Ms. Pittman?
Yes. Now, if we just declare it surplus tonight, when would we put it up for bids? Do we have to come back?
That'd be something, Mayor, we'll wait on you to bring us with a recommendation or something.
So we couldn't do both?
We could do both tonight.
Yeah, we can do both and just
say,
said,
Yeah, we could do both.
Yeah, we can do, that's what I'm saying, we can do both and when,
Yeah.
and Alderman Piper, if we don't think the market is right, we ain't got to sell nothing.
Right.
We just have the opportunity.
If we get the right dollar amount, then we can let it, cut it loose.
They got to get appraisal and all the other good stuff, so.
And I think you said you had talked to a builder that might be interested, so make sure they know we're doing this.
I will.
They can bid.
I
We'll
will.
advertise it, do all the proper things
Yeah.
with the city attorney and the city clerk. You want to anybody want to make a motion?
So move.
Second.
I thought we were gonna add it, though, add to it.
Add to what?
Well, it says as surplus and to sell
Surplus
it.
and sell.
Okay,
Oh, that was it there.
okay.
Yeah.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, no. The motion passes. Item 20 is utility adjustments.
motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes.
Motion to adjourn, Alderman Piper, Alderman Wicker is not here.
Yeah, he's not here.
He's not here to meet
Motion and a
everybody to the
second. All in
punch.
favor say aye. All opposed, no. We are now adjourned.
You got him on that.
Now we have safe travels back